It's hard to imagine a person nowadays going through life without a single label on their clothing or without a single mark of identification on their person. It's not so easy to get rid of your identity. You need to be highly motivated and have even higher levels of planning. So it's completely understandable why local authorities were completely stumped in the case of the Somerton Man. They had a dead guy lying on their beach, and they didn't know who he was, how he died, or why he was trying so desperately to conceal his identity. Let's take a look at what we know so far and what the leading theory suggests happened to this mysterious man. On December 1, 1948, a woman walking along the beach near Adelaide, Australia, spotted a man's body propped up against the seawall. She initially assumed he was sleeping, but upon closer inspection realized he was dead. Soon the local police arrived on the scene. They noted that while the man appeared well dressed, he seemed strangely stiff. Upon further examination, they uncovered two things. 1. There were no obvious signs of violence, and 2. The man was carrying no identification whatsoever. All his clothing bore no labels, and even the linings inside his shoes had been removed, making it nearly impossible to determine where the clothes had come from. What's more, every piece of clothing was tailored, bespoke, and expensive. His suit, shoes, hat, and tie all custom-made. He also carried no wallet, no money, and no indication of who he might be. In addition, the man's hands were clean and uncalloused, his nails manicured, suggesting a life without manual labor. Next, a search of the surrounding area turned up nothing. No footprints, no vehicle tracks, no discarded luggage. It was as if the man had simply materialized on the beach. At the Adelaide hospital, a post-mortem examination determined that the man was between 30 and 40 years old, in good physical condition, yet showed no signs of trauma or illness. As days passed without any leads, the police began reaching out to hospitals, morgues, and even jails across the country. But nobody had seen this man, or at least nobody came forward. Weeks into the investigation, forensic experts finally managed to unearth evidence that would become crucial in the investigation. Buried deep in the man's stomach lining, they found traces of barium, a heavy metal compound used in dyes and pigments. This hinted at a potential poisoning, but blood tests failed to detect any toxins. At this point, 3 possibilities were put forward. 1. The man had ingested a rare poison not commonly known to toxicologists at the time. 2. He was poisoned months ago, and the traces found were residual. Or 3. The poison was administered rectally, a method that was difficult to detect in the 1940s. Unfortunately, due to limited technology, none of these questions could be answered. As the case stalled, the police dusted the dead man for fingerprints, but even that yielded no results. No matches were found in Australian or international databases. He was literally a ghost, unknown and unidentified. On January, over a month since the discovery of the body, a breakthrough occurred. An employee at the Adelaide railway station identified a suitcase left in the cloakroom that matched the description of one carried by the dead man. With renewed hope, the police searched the suitcase, finding men's clothing, including a vest, pajamas, socks and slippers, a fountain pen, razor blades and towels, and once again, every piece of clothing bore no labels. However, this time, something extraordinary caught the eye of investigators. Tucked away in a seam of the dead man's trousers, almost invisible, was a scrap of paper with the words Tamám Shud printed on it. The phrase, an excerpt from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, translates to ended or finished. The significance of the note became clear when investigators discovered that the fragment was torn from the final page of a Rubaiyat, not just any copy, mind you, but one with a unique inscription on the back cover. There was an intriguing series of letters and numbers written in pencil. To date, this inscription has never been cracked. Unlike the case of Jack the Ripper, the cipher here is much more cryptic and appears to contain a code of some sort. As for the book itself, it was confirmed as being a first edition published in London in 1889. Interestingly, the police tracked down its previous owner, a Mr. Lloyd Ross, who claimed to have lost it. He had purchased the book in England, where he served in the Royal Navy. Notably, the case of the Somerton Man bears striking similarities to those of 2 other cipher cases, namely the Jack the Ripper murders and the mysterious Voynich manuscript. But unlike those cases, this one involves a real person who really existed, adding a layer of intrigue and suspense. Who was this man who ended his life on a desolate beach? And why did he leave behind such a puzzling message? The trail went cold again until 1978, when Jessica Thompson, a nurse who lived close to the beach, was interviewed about the case. By then, Jessica was 81 years old and living in a nursing home. While browsing a newspaper clipping of the investigation, she looked shaken and remarked, "That's our Tom." Further questioning revealed that Jessica knew the Somerton Man, although she claimed not to remember where or how she met him. She also stated that she had lent her copy of the Rubaiyat to someone, possibly a serviceman, but refused to elaborate. It was the closest lead in the investigation. However, Jessica was adamant that she had no knowledge of the man's death. In a surprising turn of events, she agreed to undergo hypnosis in an attempt to recover her memories. Under hypnosis, she recalled seeing the man alive and well in a hotel room in the suburb of Glenelg. She also spoke of his name, though she couldn't recall what it was. According to Jessica, the man had checked into the hotel on November 26, 1948, claiming to be waiting for a ship that would arrive in a few weeks. He paid for 2 weeks in advance. Jessica last saw him on the morning of November, when he left the hotel room, promising to return that night. He never did. Jessica informed the police. Further investigation into the hotel revealed that the man had registered under the name Carl Webb, a detail that remained consistent throughout. Jessica's recollections also described the man's physical attributes, matching those of the Somerton Man, right down to his ginger hair and the distinctive mole on his chest. Though the breakthrough in the case was promising, Jessica's story took a confusing turn. 2 days later, she retracted her statements, including her hypnotic regression. Jessica's shifting narrative left investigators puzzled. Did she truly know the man, or was she mistaken? What was the meaning of the Tamám Shud note and the coded rubaiyat, or was it all just a bizarre coincidence? Another peculiar aspect of the case is the nurse's own backstory. A World War II veteran, Jessica's wartime duties involved treating venereal diseases in servicemen, some of whom were spies. This raised the possibility that the Somerton Man could have been an undercover operative, a theory supported by Jessica's familiarity with military terminology and security procedures. Yet, despite her intimate knowledge of the case, Jessica was tight-lipped, declining to comment further and even refusing to allow her friends to talk about the case. This silence only fueled rumors. Some believed she was hiding something, perhaps a romantic involvement with the deceased man or knowledge of his espionage activities. Others argued that Jessica was trying to protect her own privacy or shield the family of the deceased from further scrutiny. Jessica Thompson's death in 1980 brought the case full circle. Her sudden passing cut off any further chance of unraveling the mystery. Her funeral was attended by a handful of mourners, including her daughter Diana. During the service, Diana noticed a stranger taking notes, apparently intrigued by the case. Years later, when Diana learned that the Somerton Man had been identified as Carl Charles Webb, she revealed a startling fact. Her mother had indeed had a son born out of wedlock in 1946 and placed for adoption. Although the child was not the focus of the investigation, the news of the Somerton Man's identity raises questions about whether the two were related. If Carl Webb was the biological father, his decision to abandon the child and then seemingly erase himself from existence becomes all the more perplexing. All told, the case of the Somerton Man remains an enigma. The discovery of his true identity offers closure to some extent, but the overarching mystery persists. Why did he disguise himself and conceal his past? How did he meet Jessica Thompson, and what was the nature of their relationship, and how did he die? While the answers to these questions may never surface, the case continues to fascinate and serve as a stark reminder of the complexities of human nature. The intersection of identity, secrecy, and deception creates a puzzle that transcends time, keeping the enigma of the Somerton Man alive in the annals of unsolved mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out more content. Thanks for watching, and until next time.